Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Jonathan, Festival Director. Welcome to our panel today. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator.
Hello here. Well, welcome to the Big Apple Film Festival. My name is Nikia Glover. I'll be your moderator today. Let's introduce the producers. So can you tell me your name, your film, and then also one interesting fun fact about yourself?
Oh my gosh. Okay. You're so lucky you have time to think about your own fun fact. Hi, I'm Devin Inez Fusaro, she, her pronouns. I'm here with a short series called Problematic. The first 3 episodes streamed on YouTube. Very exciting. And an interesting fact about me is that I cannot think quickly on my feet, obviously, because there's just so many interesting things. Yes. I can't choose one. And with that, I'll turn it to my partner.
Hi, I'm Pranav. I'm a co-creator, co-producer, et cetera, Problematic with Devin. Interesting fact about me, I'm actually 9 feet tall. So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Karsten Otto. I produced the short film Face Paint, he, him pronouns, and it's not that interesting, but I have a Substack where I review music.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Shat Hylton. I'm one half of Sage Bird Films, a production company I run with my partner in life and art, Colin. And hello, Colin. And I am the producer and editor of our feature film, Appalachian Dog. And I guess this one interesting thing is I did a cappella for 9 years.
Wow.
Do it now.
We'll harmonize later.
Yes.
Hello, I'm MJ Bernier. I'm the producer of Sorority Court, which has the honor of being part of the Big Apple Film Festival this year. Interesting fact, that's what was next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also Portuguese, I'm not just American.
Yeah.
Represent Portugal.
That's going to be a lot of talk to.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the first question would be, why did you choose being a producer, and how did you evolve to this point in your career?
Oh, wow.
Do you want someone else? Do you want to go for? I'm saying you're in the hot seat.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that. Being a producer means so many things. I think there are so many different types of producers, and I feel like on the variety of things that I've worked on, from format to genre, the role has actually been very different. It's varied, and I've sort of had to use different strengths along the way, project dependent, right? So how did I start such a thing? Well, I started as a production assistant, and then because I write as well, I got into development producing, and I wanted to help try and sell things. That was tough. I don't know if you guys know, people are not just like handing money out for you to make your thing all the time. But then I was fortunate to meet people who were really skilled at fundraising, which is a whole other type of producing that I am not as fluent in. But I loved ideas, and like no matter what I'm doing, whether it's producing before something's sold or producing on set, I feel like the one common denominator is I can see something, I have a vision, and we all have this shared vision with our collaborators. And then I think maybe a gift of mine, and a gift that we all have as producers, is actualizing that, and how you actualize it, and the needs of that actualization, again, are project to project. So started in development, ended up on set when I got really lucky to actually sell something, and it, got made once. And now I'm on my second on-set producerial project, and that's been awesome. Yeah, it's just always been project by project, and writing was my way in. Yeah.
I became a producer mostly through necessity. By our project, I'm actually just a stand-up comedian and a writer, so wrote the thing, and luckily I'm naturally pretty bossy as well, so that was kind of worked out well, yeah. But a less eloquent path of Devin, so.
Yeah, so I started in New York as an actor in like the twin joy and hell that is like developmental theater. And like I loved developing new plays as an actor in particular. Sometimes saw it through to like final production and publication, and that was always like my dream when I was in middle school, like seeing the names. But oftentimes you also develop it and then it goes away, such is the nature of the art, which is totally fine. And I'm okay about it, you can tell. But then a little thing called COVID hit, and I looked at my life and I was like, like how do I want to change? How do I want to like keep this like developing spirit alive and maybe see it through to the end and stay attached to it? And so I started I produced my first short film during the pandemic, and then now this is my third. And yeah, it's just really exciting to, like it's been said, like see an idea through, help nurture an idea. And I love like starting really early with a script and like figuring out how to see the writer's vision and like see that through to the end, which I think is really exciting and fun. And so I like producing as early as possible, and it scratches that developmental itch. And it's only joy. It's only easy and perfect as opposed to being an actor, of course.
Well, my day job is I'm an editor, and I work very closely with the post-producers. And I think for me, producing has been a natural progression because I'm very organized, very scheduled, like, working with deadlines all the time, talking to clients and stuff like that. So I think for me, producing is like the natural progression from that. Yeah, and it's, so much of it is just like communication and really just like getting the right people on board, the right fit for the project. So yeah, it really is a project-to-project thing as well.
So I started in art school. I studied photography, and sort of, my senior thesis ended up being a documentary. And I naturally was taking all these photographs that looked like film stills, and just kind of didn't know what I was doing. And ended up in California. I'm an East Coaster, and got this job as a producer's assistant. Luckily, kind of put myself out there, and it happened. And I mean, I'm not talking associate producer here. I'm talking assistant. Right? Very, very low. Below production assistant. And slight side tangent. I grew up in a very athletic family, and Portuguese football. Like really just incredible athletes, and I was horrible at athletics. But when I was a producer's assistant, I had the feeling my brothers had. I was like, I'm good at this, right? So I think that for the first time, I was like, this is natural to me. I'm good at this. Like you want to promote me and stuff. And it was a really good feeling, and I ran with it. I started in camera because I studied photography. And while I loved it, I think that as a woman, as a queer woman, on a lot of like white male dominated sets, I really early was like, who's the person in charge? And do they get to pick like with this story? Do they get to pick like who's here? How do we get more representation? How do I make this more of a set that feels comfortable and I can be myself and I'm respected? And so a lot of my drive in becoming a producer, because I'm also a director, was really just in wanting to tell the kind of stories that I wanted to tell with the kind of people that I felt like were being represented.
Thank you so much for your answers. So the next question is, as a producer, in order to succeed, what is the top characteristic virtue you believe that you need to have?
Well, as someone who is so successful and have succeeded, so take this down. No, I don't. I think that I don't know, on a spiritual level, what is success in this? Let's talk about it, I guess, in the industry, but in this world, like, did you work with people? Did you make something happen? Did you leave your ego at the door and try to create something larger than yourself? And did you open the door for someone? And did you pay homage to the person who opened the door for you? I mean, key to success, perseverance, maybe, let's just say that. And I think there's many different formulas for many different people. I act as well, and I've been told no a million times. I became a producer because I didn't have maybe a clear sense of who I wanted to be as a director, and so I just sort of like water started doing things. So like my natural interests and leaning into people who wanted to work with me is what led me to where I am here. And so that feels like success, is like being true to myself and leaning into opportunities that felt right and leaving opportunities that didn't feel right. That to me has led to some of the success I felt and the blessings I received, but certainly success feels like this, maybe, I don't know, like a manufactured idea. I don't know if you all share the same definition of it, but this industry may tell you that it looks one way, and as long as you're able to take care of yourself and having a fulfilling time and maybe paying rent, maybe not, cancel rent, I don't know. Maybe that's success. Just not letting the industry eat you alive, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty accurate. That and $1 million.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's more just, knowing when to let go and when to hold on to a thing. That to me is probably the most important thing about being a producer or a success. And we were a success. We made the thing. We've been in a lot of festivals, and we, for all the reasons that you mentioned, of getting to work together and making something that we're proud of, that is the mark. But throughout all that, you have to really learn how to be flexible, and learn how to let things evolve as well. We all start with a vision for a thing, and we cling on to it because we think that's the best, but the real doing of the thing always happens in the actual doing of it. It's not the pre-planning of it or what your initial vision is. It's actually the act of creating it, and so that requires a lot of flexibility and learning how to let go at certain times. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, first of all, like, just in terms of like succeeding, I mean, I think finishing a movie, takes so long that like, just like seeing it through to the end, like, is a success, like just doing it, like, is a success. And in this day and age, you can put it on YouTube, you can put it anywhere, you just have it, and then, again, having that tangible thing to me is like so wonderful and is a success. Really agree with flexibility, really agree with perseverance. I think that like it's kind of like a twin characteristic of like discipline and patience, because it's like, the discipline of just like following up, following through, checking in on people, like, just and following up with people. I think, Chad, you said like it's kind of like who you know, so it's just like building that network. And yeah, I was thinking patience, but with the caveat of like, do the work, and you can't stop doing the work. It's like you have to be patient, and it's not just like sitting around patience. It's like, okay, I like did as much as I could this year. It's still not there. I'll be patient. So it's kind of both.
That's great. The patience is a really big part of it. And I'm going to reiterate flexibility, because I think, what's important is it's really important not to get, and this is also this isn't the same with producing, but also in the artistic, in like writing as well. Try not to get too fixated on one way you think it should be or it should go. There's not one specific path to success, because you're going to be told no many times throughout the process, and you have to pivot. I would say like pivoting and finding a new avenue to reach your end goal. I think that's one of the most important things that we've learned on this project too. It's, I think it's being open to other paths to success and kind of thinking on your feet, because you're going to get no's if you think like, oh, I have to do this festival and this festival. Oh, well, I didn't get into those. Okay, well, then maybe I want to do this and that. Just what you're like supposed to do. But there's a lot of creativity that can come from think outside the box. And I think that's been where we've seen a lot of the reward. It's like perseverance and like a little bit of spite. It's like, oh, you say I can't do it, well, I'm just gonna do it anyway.
Spite's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what everyone has said so far, and I think that sums up that there sort of isn't just one or two things, there's so many things, but I think it's important to speak to like what's helped us get to that point, and I think for me a lot of it is like internal gratification. I think if I was looking for others to keep telling me I've done a great job, and that was what was carrying me through, I wouldn't probably have made anything, because a lot of what you get is, you know, unfortunately pushback, and there's a lot of competition. And I think that like just telling myself like, you're doing enough, keep doing this, keep believing in what you think, keep going, and having the community out there that like feels that way about you and you feel that way about them and you can keep going is instrumental. So I think, yeah, like that internal gratification, like working on your own belief in yourself, which is the hardest thing, I think, and then having a community and practicing compassion within that community will get you so far, because people want to keep working with you. You're developing strong relationships, not just passing, intense. You know, film is like a whirlwind. It comes in, it comes out, right? So it's like, it's really hard to grasp onto people in that moment. And I think you do that by, yeah, like treating everyone with so much compassion. And I think building that community. So I think that's probably like the biggest keys to the success that I've seen.
All right, so that brings me to my final question. What advice and strategies do you have outside of what you've already presented for aspiring producers?
Advice I have, I mean, I'm an aspiring producer still. There's so much, every time I work on a project, I'm learning from someone. I feel like I still consider myself an aspiring producer, even though I am a producer and have credits as a producer now. My advice is, I'll start with just like the hard stuff. It's never until I've completed something and look back on it that I've given myself the grace of being like, oh, I am that, right? My imposter syndrome is so loud. And all I can ever think of is like that I'm not good enough, or that, you know, I get very siloed in my own head of having high standards for myself. And I think when I look back on my career thus far is when I see like, oh wow, yeah, I do have some credits, and I did do a thing, and I did that. And to realize how long it took to do all that journey. And it just looks like a few lines on IMDb, right? Or like something nice on your website. That took years of every day just getting to it, email by email, meeting by meeting, you know, creative session by creative session. And so I suppose perspective is really what I'm trying to get at, is understanding maybe how long something can take until, and not letting it take so long until you're proud of yourself, until you can consider it a credit or something that you can do. That is advice I would have given myself. Grace. And then just on a practical level, professionally, I feel like it's on such a case-by-case basis. Like, I'll borrow, I think the lore is that Issa Rae said this, and I've always really liked it. She said, instead of reaching up, reach around. And I think that that's really cool, because like the most fun I've had making something is when I reached around. I reached around to come up in acting class, and we made Problematic. I worked as I am working as a climate justice advocate for NY Renews. I reached around there, and now I'm working on a climate justice doc for the Spring Hill Company and Atlas Films. I reached around, and someone reached around to me. So I guess if you just keep doing that, the people you were reaching up for, maybe they come to you. And I'm sure there's so many more things, but I'll just leave it at those two pieces for now. And thanks, Cynthia, for this.
I think me, I would say you have to really embrace the shittiness too, and you have to actually like the shittiness as well, because we're all in it because like, oh, we have a creative vision, or we want to make something really cool, or maybe you want to make a bunch of money or something, but you like really have to love the grittiness of the process as well. So that would be my big piece of advice there.
Yeah. A little bit of a sidebar. I work with kids, and like this is like a big I agree when you say things. And when you said the Easter egg thing, I had to withhold, be like, you know.
Why did you do that?
Well,
I wish you hadn't.
I know. Well, without context, when you're answering, like, what the fuck did you just do? Oh, sorry, I don't know if we can swear. Sorry, YouTube. Anyhow, definitely agree with reaching a community. I'll do two things. Like the practical thing, and I heard this on a panel like years ago. As a producer, just kind of like at any point in the project, like from when it begins to end, just kind of like accept that it's like all your faults and like literally everything, and just like things that seem that they aren't, just say that they are, and it's empowering because you're like, if it's my fault, I can fix it, as opposed to someone being like, oh, it's out of my control. Just be like, yeah, like. It rained on that day, and I chose that day. So I could have chosen
It's your fault.
It's my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault.
I can fix it. I think kind of like the heart of stealing that answer, it's kind of based on what NJ said, which is like the internal gratification. I'm like a big shocker about my outfit, Rick Rubin fan, and he talks a lot about like how important it is to like have like a discerning taste and like figure out what you like and like what you want to make, because then like if you know what you like and what you want to see, then it really protects you from, well, you just have like a really strong, it's like an artist statement. Like you have to write so many kind of, do you need thumbs up for swearing? Yeah, okay, great. You get so many bullshit answers sometimes in artistic statements, but like if you get that taste, it like leads into like an artist statement that you can live and it like, so you know if you actually like what you're making, as opposed to like thinking about like, oh, like once you start making it for someone else, it's like you, I mean, as a director too, like you as a producer, as a director are like, yeah, I am proud of this, I like this, I would watch this. And I think like really focusing on that is probably the most important thing and helps you stand behind it.
I would say the two things for me that have been most helpful is it starts with the writing and then ends with the movie being shown. But when people say like in film school, like write what you know, I think that's very important. And I also think it's if you are looking to make the film, I think also writing what you have access to, because you can get something that looks like you had so much more resources and money by looking around you, right? It's very much like the Easter egg quote, and it's just like looking around you, pulling from your resources. Like we, shot our film in North Carolina in the Appalachian Mountains, and we had access to a friend's family farm with a bunch of lambs, with this beautiful like backdrop, and it just gives, like things like that are just gifts. Basically, it's like, oh wow, we had access to them, we got it, for free because they're friends, and sometimes. And the second part of it is, it's like you'd be surprised how many people actually are like can get excited about something if you're excited about it. So like if you are passionate about what you're talking about, people are going to be on board because it's nice to see someone be so passionate about what they care about. So that's a really good communication thing for when like asking for. To can I film in here at a discounted rate, or hey, would you look at my film? I need some notes or anything like that. I think that kind of passion like reads, and people then just you'd be surprised at how many kind of yeses you can get if you'll get a lot of no's, but you'll get some yeses. You'll be surprised by them, and it's just really helpful.
Yeah, that resonates so much. Right? Ask. I guess if it was our advice to someone aspiring to be a producer, I would say that, yeah, there's sort of the practical and then there's like the dreamy side. So on the dreamy side, it helps to just have like that mountain on the horizon and not lose track of it. I'm a producer. And maybe that starts with you're a producer's assistant working a full-time job and you only get to do that like once a week. Maybe that, you get lucky and you're on set immediately. But I think regardless of what the journey is, and it ties into the practicality, like, don't worry about how old you are. Don't worry about like if you fit the right mold, if you've done it in time. I had kids in the middle. Like I did everything wrong and it all ended up fine. I think that like just keep going and don't lose track of that like summit. Like I'm a producer. So every little conversation you have is like that is the undertone of it. And because that was the undertone of it, it leads to something else. And it goes back to the imposter syndrome. Fuck that. Fuck that right now. You're a producer today if you say you're one. And you just keep going with that. And I think that, a lot of us don't have the privilege to just wake up all of a sudden and be born nepo baby. Wish I would have. Not really, but maybe. But like, maybe you have to do that while you're going to school. Maybe it doesn't look like, none of it is gonna hurt you. No set is gonna hurt you. Well, say yes to the things that feel right and that you have time for. And if you don't wake up in a year with a multi-million-dollar film, don't hate on yourself. Like just keep trying and know that like you also don't need that to be successful. You just need to make something you're proud of. So I'd say that's probably like the vibe.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right. Well, you guys inspired me. So thank you so much for bringing your gift to this space and to the world online. And do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, okay.
The demand of a multicultural film in New Zealand is growing. My question is, what do you think the opportunities and demand in the United States for cross-cultural or multicultural, or a director with a cross-cultural or multicultural? Thank you.
I think demographics is destiny. And so a lot of people want to think, oh, there's some kind of a top-down DEI person who's demanding things be more diverse. But the fact is that if you live in a diverse place that's increasingly more and more diverse, the demand is there for people to feel represented on screen. So I think the sky is the limit as long as we just open the borders, But yeah, that would be my answer.
Yeah, it's I would say like it's growing, and something that like I choose to be encouraged by as opposed to terrified by is like the internet. And and I'm encouraged by like speaking to the US, but even just like the world is like, again, if you make something and put it online, it's like the rise of niche is like growing, and like people can find anything. And like, again, sometimes that scares me, especially because I love video games. I'm just like, they're coming from movies, not anything else. It's like video games. But I'm also choosing like, people will still obviously want to watch films and watch movies, and putting it out there, I do believe that people will find it. And again, it's like, I mean, like it was said, it might not look like the traditional way of like big distribution or whatever, but like these like micro streaming services, these like, or like different online like video, the big ones with video, YouTube, whatever, there's small ones, I'm sure I don't even know. But like, I think people will find it, because like that is one thing, at least one thing that is like beautiful about the internet and the age we live in.
I will say one thing. One other thing that's really important, especially in terms of diversity, is building your own communities as well, right? You can't just be in your own silo by yourself, creating something in a vacuum and then expect. So there is a lot of community building involved with that too.
I can speak to that.
I think that whether someone wants it or not, like bring it here. Right? Because this is America, where we all have a background somewhere else. We're all in some ways multicultural, unless you're like my husband, who's literally been an American for like 5 generations. you know, like, yeah, a lot of us want that. We need that. I would love to only work in that way. I think the idea that like American filmmakers just make American movies is pretty boring. And I think for the most part, it's, you know, people want more. And I think they need it, even if they don't want it, you know, because it's so much more beautiful. It's so much more rich. It has so much more originality. And, you know, a film I'm making now in writing is about my Portuguese ancestry and, you know, what I learned from my Rose, my grandmother. And I think that, like, I don't really care if no one wants it. Like, I'm going to make it anyway. And I think the more people that can just do that, because that's their story. Like, if you're multicultural and that's your story, then that's the story you're supposed to be telling, you know, or could be telling.
And actually, I was also going to say, too, it's, this is making me think about a film that we have in a different festival right now, but it's the idea of community just is, you know, whatever your community is, or your chosen community, your chosen family, or, you know, the community you find yourself in, like that, that is, it's like the idea of like, people have this idea, I'm about to get really like, but people have this idea of what America is and what it like should be, but America is your community. It's everything. It's not one singular vision of America. And I know, you know, at least me as like a queer man, it's like, you know, telling stories that uplift queer voices. I mean, that's already something that I feel like, especially, you know, post election, it's like those multicultural, those stories, those are actually like very, very, very important. And yeah, it's just, I would just say use your voice to really just say whatever the hell story you want to say. And if it's coming from a place of truth, like people are gonna want to watch it because that's why we watch movies, is to like learn and grow and just like be a part of something. So that's awesome.
I said, doesn't New Zealand have like great tax credits for movie makers? Do that and then like make it there and then bring it here. So then we'll work on the next one together. But lean into those tax credits. Yeah.
Yes.
I also have an episodic in this festival, and I was wondering if you could speak about navigating the festival circuit and then post-distribution plans once the festival circuit comes to an end.
So our film, Appalachian Dog, has distribution through Buffalo 8, and we found Buffalo 8 through, we got a sales agent, and that was, yeah, I mean, that was like a game changer for us, Len Reynolds. And he is amazing, and it's like, he believed in the film, and he shopped it around. We got like a really nice offer from Buffalo 8, and it was really good because like in this industry, you can feel like, even if you get an offer for something, it still feels like you might be like a needle in a haystack, or, you know, you might have a meeting with someone and you don't even know if they actually even watched the movie, or if they just like, oh, you're the one that does the pitches, so you'll get the thing. So, you know, it can feel very impersonal, but it's always nice to find the people that actually like believe in it. So it's, you know, when we had the meeting with Buffalo 8, they had, you know, watched it and had specific things to say. It was such a kind of a warm meeting, and it felt so, you know, personal to the film. So, you know, that is how we found our distribution. And yeah, it's been a pretty good ride with that. I mean, we've been very fortunate, and you can look for it when it premieres on streaming or video on demand in hopefully spring, if it passes the QC. If not, it'll be pushed, but hopefully it's spring. Thank you so much. You want to say? Okay, I'm going to turn it off.
That's okay. You're fine. All right, you have a question. So my first question specifically is for Karsten. And I don't know if there's any other educators here or anyone else who does theater, but what are some strengths or experiences from either world that has helped you
being a producer, or like what crossed over?
Sure. Well, yeah, I'd say being resourcefulness, doing things like really cheaply, is something I learned in downtown theater. I mean, I think there's like and I do think, I mean, it's a little bit trite to say, but I think like what you learn, just like, I mean, I think a lot of us talked about the community thing and like the real like vibe of like spending 2 to 6 months with like a cast and crew, and everyone really makes you realize like, okay, yeah, the communal aspect of it, I think really translates like what a lot of us have said about like, maybe all of us have said, about like running a set and like making sure people feel heard and respected and like we're all a part of it, and like and maybe even like more in a more fun way, like, you know, theater has a lot of like little rallying games, or you're like, it has a lot of like ritual and tribute and like not tributes, what's the word I'm forgetting what the word I'm looking for, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, just like I guess set culture changes. I have noticed a big difference because I feel like between like a pure kind of like film set sometimes versus like a mix and then like a bunch of theater people making a film for the first time, which has its own, both have their own challenges. But yeah, I've noticed that kind of is, for me, what I've noticed and brought to it.
Right, your second question. And then I'm going to come to, who was in the back? You, Eve? Okay, great.
So this is for everyone now, especially since you brought up fundraising before. What was the most unique or creative fundraiser you guys have had?
Great question.
I just want to shout out our third co-creator, Aditi Kini. She was brilliant in reaching out to her networks. Whether, I think it was like Brown Girls Dog Mafia or something, or she was on a Facebook group for that, and happened to see that Brick TV, who's our distributor, they were both our production company, co-production company with Paradoxic. They were our like studio for all intents and purposes, and they're distributing our short film series. So they just had an open call and gave us a certain amount of money, and that was our budget. Turns out we needed more. So then I'm going to answer in like a very indirect way. It wasn't so much about fundraising. It was about seeing how much we needed to actually get the thing done, and creative problem solving to find those funds. Reaching out to Panavision for a donated camera for like a very small fee, or figuring out how to work with an animator who we couldn't actually afford, but hey, could I hire her on something else and like, you know, help her get work some other way. So I wish I could answer, and I'm sure you'll have many brilliant people here on this panel who can speak directly to like raising actual funds, but maybe to also think about fundraising as what resources do I have to fill in the gaps of certain things. I also happened to meet a wonderful woman named Emily Best of Seed and Spark, and her company is probably the first time I heard about a fundraising campaign that seemed fun. Like every other fundraising campaign I ever heard about made me itchy, and I didn't want to do it. But then she thought about it creatively. She was like, well, how can you make like ancillary content that would make people excited about donating a thing? And as a creative person, that's when my light bulb went off. So Seed and Spark seems cool. Maybe not favors, but like creative fundraising or fund gap filling. And then again, shout out Aditi Kini, who was in her networks online, found an open call, and is the reason why we were able to make our show for Brick TV.
I think the most creative fundraising was a immersive 1920s style like murder mystery party where like 8 of us like did like a little like murder story and like invited, and it was only like 50 people, but like invited them, and it was like a party, but there was also a murder, and it was kind of like a live interactive like Clue or like whodunit kind of thing. That was fun.
don't know if I've experienced something like fun. Like that sounds really fun. Now I'm getting ideas. Why didn't I do that? Oh, you know, with the fundraising, I feel we've done. I feel like that's something that I have to work on more because I feel like we've had some success, but you know, it's very hard to break through the noise. So that's something I'm taking notes from everyone else here. So that's all.
I'll shout out the director of Sorority Court, Emily Draper, who, with my other producer, Monique Vinsky, did a comedy show, and that raised a good amount of money for Sorority Court. It was also crowdfunded, which I agree. Yeah, you can make kind of fun. I think at the end of the day, though, like it's not fun. Like, you know, you're asking people for money, and I think just ask people for money. Just do it, you know, and just be like proud of what you're making, and just be like, I need some money to make this, you know, and do you want to be part of that? And don't feel any shame or guilt, especially if you have a lot of it, because they should probably redistribute that. And I will say, you know, what you spoke to about resources is so much more it. Because ask someone for a free camera, you know, like ask a place that is renting cameras all the time that's going to have something sitting there. And maybe it's not as common, you know, maybe you're not using your dream camera, but maybe they're going to give you a radio for it. Or ask your friend if you can use their mom's Connecticut house. Or, you know, like these little things, like they add up so much more than, you know, trying to get $550 from someone on Facebook. You know, I think that finding those resources and filling those gaps and being willing to do things with less money is really important, especially in media. I know no one wants to.
It's good advice.
It's good advice. Yeah. And actually, something, I mean, a little bit related to this, but I think with NJ we were talking about this a couple days ago. It's like, just really be transparent with like what you can pay people up front and just say like, this is what we can offer you. And I mean, tying in the excitement and like just believing in it. And it's like, and if they want to do it, they'll do it. And they have the information and be proud of what you can offer them because that's what you can offer. And yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, I guess one last thing. I think it's so important. Like, I think this is like the big like clincher. If that's the word.
Yeah, clincher.
It's just having just the right people on board because like if you form these relationships with creators that you love and you trust, I mean, it's going to show in the work, and it'll just feel like you had all this resource and all this, you know, moolah. But you know, it'll really like the value of the film just increases tenfold if you have just like the right, you know, creative people behind it. And I think that has been like the big kind of thing for us, why we feel so blessed is because we're always working with these like wonderful creative people. I think that really is a big thing.
I will say that every location in Problematic, that 6 episodes, was through a favor. So we didn't pay for most of those. We gave like a small little honorarium to my local bodega, and that was it. But we had some really great locations that were all called in through our own personal networks. So yeah, I really activate those.
I did a play in New Jersey like 6 months before, and the home that we shot in, like the owners happened to be the director of the play, and he just like loved art. He and his wife just like loved art. And when they found out we were making something, we were like, yay, you know. So yeah. Also, you know what I realized I didn't say, which maybe is helpful, not so much for fundraising, but thinking about how to use funds is, have you guys heard about like the good, fast, cheap triangle? Mm-hmm. Right? Like you can have something good and fast, but it won't be cheap. You can have something fast and cheap, but it won't be good. You can have something good and cheap, but it won't be fast, right? Or whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so expectations, and I hold on to that, you know, and just like, you know, a 6-month post-process or whatever it is they couldn't really afford. It's like, well, this is what we can pay people, and being transparent about what we can pay people. And thus they have to have other jobs. Well, they're also working on this job, so things take longer, whatever that is. But yeah, I hold on to that triangle. And if anyone has another geometric shape that they'd like to offer, I would love for that one not to be true, but alas, I found it to be.
Until now, did the project choose you, or you choose the project? And if you choose the project, what is the more common way or criteria to choose the project? Thank you.
Start with someone else. I'm sick
MJ, take the wheel.
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
Yeah.
I'll end with you.
Yeah.
For this project, I chose it. Well, they chose me too. It was both. We met through Pano, which, shout out Pano, is a New York network for women and non-binary filmmakers. And they did a post being like, we need another producer. We don't have a bunch of money, but we have a project we really like. And they said something that really was funny. Like, they use humor. And so I was like, I'm going to talk to them. They seem cool. And we had a meeting and it was great. And it felt like family right away. And I love the concept. I chose it because it felt good. That's the first thing I'll say.
Yeah.
It felt good to talk to these people. I wanted to talk to them more. I wanted to hang out with them, and that's pretty important when you're gonna now spend your whole life with them for a year. And I love the subject matter. It fit in with what I was trying to do, right? Like, I think I don't like to hop around horror to comedy to, I like to, it all to sort of make sense, the body of work, so it fit into that body of work. And it was my community, other queer filmmakers, other New Yorkers, other women. It checked a lot of boxes.
Well, as I produced with my partner Colin, he wrote the script for Appalachian Dog, and he actually wrote it because he just knew that he wanted to star in a film with his friend from college, Georgia. So he's like, I always wanted to play a husband and wife with her, and then from there, it all kind of went from that, and we really wanted to have roles for all of our close collaborators. Like there's Elizabeth from the front, she is also one of the stars. So congrats for you. So we really it's honestly, I think we choose it based on what we want to, who we want to showcase from our network.
You choose to work with the people, not with the project.
That's right.
You choose the man who want to work with, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a screenwriter, thank you.
Okay.
That's the right answer, thank you.
Oh, sure. I feel like that's the right answer. For Face Paint, Silvana Carranza, the writer-director, is a friend of mine, and she reached out just as, script development, because she knows I love doing that. And I read it and was kind of, again, discerning the taste. I was like, oh, I think this could fit, when you put your name or production handle on something, you want it to align with you, and you want to be proud of it. And so, I chose the script after she brought it to me. So that's how I got it.
Just about choice, I don't know that this answers it directly, but I feel like you have to keep choosing the project once you've chosen to do it, like a relationship. I choose you every day, or however many you're with every day, right? That's just this idea of choice. You have to choose to make it every single day, even when maybe your better sense is telling you not to, or it'd be easier not to. I feel like I have to choose to make problematic in the good times and the bad, and
Thank you.
That concludes the producer track for today. Thank you. We have our actors panel come on at 1 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock, we should have their
Theater number 3 or here?
We'll be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.